Hello, everyone, and welcome to our student podcast. Today, we're talking about discipline at school, what it means, why it matters, and how it affects us as students. I'm your host, Ula Muhammad from Elm School Masala, and I'm here with my fellow students. Let's introduce ourselves.
Hi, my name is Marwa. Hi, my name is Salma and I'm happy to be here.
My name is Sumaya.
Hi, my name is Oman and let's get into this.
Let's start simple. What does discipline mean to you guys?
To me, discipline just means like following the instructions given to you.
Discipline, to me, it's like following morals, listening to teachers, and behaving your best so that the school can run orderly.
I also believe in what Sumaya said is to make sure you do something well even if it's hard.
Okay. Do you guys think discipline is important in school?
I believe discipline is important because it helps the school run orderly. It'll help the school run orderly. It will help the students learn more efficiently, and overall, it will just benefit the students and the teachers.
Also, I believe it's more easier and safer and it's more like easier to complete work and it's more comfortable for everyone else. Yeah, I think it just keeps the school organized and it makes everyone's jobs easier.
Okay, have you guys ever felt a punishment at school was unfair?
Well, it depends on the intensity and what you've done. If I believe that if you force someone, you should get a punishment. But if you weren't the one that started the fight, the punishment should be more like less.
Yeah. I believe what she was saying was true. And like if you don't do your homework or you just like don't do corrections, I feel like you shouldn't be like suspended for that or be humiliated in front of the class. You should be talked to separately by yourself so then you can learn from it more.
So you should be talked to and guided separately so you don't take it negatively. Okay. How do you guys think teachers should correct students?
Maybe like to, basically to like say, oh, Sumaya, come outside. I want to talk with you instead of just humiliating them in front of the whole class.
Okay, so how is discipline at school different from discipline at home?
Well, discipline at home is quite different because everyone's parents, and everyone is different, so they might have different expectations on what you want them to do. But the teachers here want the same for everyone. They want them to do well, pass, and be respectful to everyone.
Okay, do parents and teachers, in your opinion, have similar expectations?
They have similar expectations because your parent wants you to have good grades, to be good in school, and so does your teachers. They have high expectations for you. So do your parents. So, yeah.
Yeah, to add on to what Salma said, the students, the teachers, and parents, they have the same things. They have the same ideas for you. They want you to be respectful towards others. They want you to try to do your best in school and life. And they just want you to be the best version of yourself.
Okay, do you guys think that discipline can be positive?
Well, in some cases it can, but it depends on the intensity of what you've done. And discipline it is good for everything because it makes sure everyone's in order and everything goes smoothly.
Yeah, because if you have discipline, if like let's say the whole school has discipline, then the school will be running a lot more efficiently. Grades will get higher, and it'll just be a lot better for the whole school.
Okay, do you guys think there's a difference between punishment and guidance? If yes, then what's the difference?
So guidance is like words of affirmation to make you do well, but it depends the way you send like the message and the way you take it in because some people won't take the message. But punishment, it might be a one-time thing because I don't think you want to get beat for doing the same thing multiple times.
Yeah, to add on to what she said, when you're guided for, like, let's say you don't do your homework and somebody is guiding you to do your homework a lot better. I would say if you don't do your homework, if you don't do your homework like if you keep on repeating the same mistake, then you should be punished for that. But if you stop doing that, then the guidance will actually work. But it always depends on the student. If the student takes it to heart, then they'll follow it. But if they don't, then they'll just leave it in the trash.
I think guidance is like being told why what you did was wrong, and punishment is more of like you facing the consequences of your mistakes.
Okay, the question is, can discipline be positive?
It depends. Like if you're just yelling, like for example, if a teacher is just yelling at the student and not like talking to them like calmly, because like for example, if you were to be yelling at me, I would basically not understand anything you're trying to say to me and just think that you don't want the best for me and stuff. So just like talk to the student calmly instead of just yelling, because yelling never does the best for the student.
Do strict rules make students better or more rebellious?
I think that the more that teachers are stricter with the rules, that like makes students want to be more rebellious and it makes them want to act out more. But I feel like at the same time, like a level of like strictness is necessary, and that like there should be that like that level, and there should be balance.
So you're saying there should be rules, but it shouldn't be too strict.
Yeah, basically what I'm saying is like, yeah, they shouldn't be as strict. Like they shouldn't be seen as controlling, and like the students shouldn't feel cornered. They should like understand why the rules are there, why like what they're doing is wrong, and why just understanding it.
Is detention effective? Do you guys think detention is effective?
I believe detention is effective because going straight to suspension is like unfair to the student. They could have been attacked by somebody and they could be suspended for that. And I feel like it's unfair towards the student because they didn't engage in the fight and they just didn't really do anything to like to get that suspension. But if the teacher still feels like the student should be punished somewhat, after school suspension would be a lot better than to just go ahead and suspend them for like a week.
To add on to what she was saying, like if you feel like a student like is misbehaving or not doing their homework, like you could also call their parents and have a little meeting with them, and like you could also do other stuff, but like running straight to suspension isn't always the right thing to do.
Yeah, to add on to her point, suspension shouldn't always like be the first resort to misbehaving. I think every mistake that you make should have its own punishment. So like suspension shouldn't just like for talking in class, you shouldn't just be suspended. I think that suspension should be like there when it's necessary.
About what you said on suspension, do you guys think students can lose like their progress or get lower grades when they're suspended?
Well, when you are suspended, you lose like a lot of the education that we learned, and some of the teachers won't go back unless it's for revision, and you can like lose like some stuff, and it might come in the exam. Most of the things that you like when you're suspended from, and you won't know how to understand it, and it might be difficult.
Yeah, because you could be suspended during like an important like chapter in the textbook, and if you're suspended during then, how will you understand it?
It will be harder, of course. Okay, so what changes would you suggest to improve discipline?
Maybe like if you would like in school suspension, instead of being suspended, you should do in school suspension for like a week, because like you get suspended for like 10 days, right? What about in school suspension for 10 weeks? Break time, the students are all together, right? Why don't you put the student in a separate room, like uh, I call it honestly lunch detention. Why don't you make something like that when the student is in a room by themselves the whole day, having snack there, doing their work there? I think that's better than just running straight to suspensions.
So you're basically saying they should be isolated.
Yes. Yes. Yes, they should be isolated.
I agree with her point. Like, if the student is sitting in a room by themselves, they could like reflect on their mistake and like, think about why, like, think about what they did wrong and just, just be reflecting on it.
Okay, what advice would you give the younger students?
Well, honestly, I'll tell them to focus on their studies, to do well, and to not get distracted with other things that won't matter, like in the future.
Yeah, I would tell them to try their best in their studies, try to reflect like the best behavior they can to help them in the future.
I'd just say like the way you start off the school year really matters, and you shouldn't do stuff just to impress your friends. I think you should really like think about your future and you and your grades. You shouldn't really like just do things for peer pressure, and you should just like really focus on your studies.
Okay, I agree because those friends like you're trying to impress currently, like they won't be there in the future when you're trying to get a job, when you're going to college, they won't be there for you. Okay, now before we end, what is one thing you learned?
That discipline is always needed, and you have to, it doesn't matter if you don't like it, you have to go with the rules and to respect everyone and respect the boundaries.
Yeah, I agree with what she said.
I agree with what she said too.
What I learned is discipline is needed everywhere you go, not just schools. It's needed at home, it's needed out in the world, it's needed at the job you go to. Discipline is not just a school thing, it's a worldly thing.
Okay, thank you for listening to our podcast. Remember, discipline is not just about rules, it's about becoming better people. See you next time.